Chapter 1. The massive arena stood silent, the weight of history pressing down on every onlooker. Alien spectators from across the galaxy filled the stands, their faces a tapestry of strange features, their eyes gleaming with an unspoken excitement. On the battlefield, two figures stood at opposite ends, poised for a challenge that would ripple across the galaxy. Jack Harper, his heart pounding against his chest, could feel the eyes of the galaxy on him. He wasn't just any cadet today. He was humanity's last hope. The grand, cold expanse of the Forge Station stretched out before him. An arena built for the strongest, the fiercest, the most brutal warriors. His palms were slick with sweat, his muscles tight, his mind racing through 1,000 calculations. Opposite him stood Zeron Calrither, the Star Dominion's elite warrior. The alien was a hulking mass of power, his sheer presence suffocating the air. He was adorned in blackened, gleaming armor, dark eyes narrowed in contempt, the arrogance radiating from him like a palpable force. His race was ancient, their technology superior, their conquests endless. For him, this fight was nothing more than a minor diversion. You, a human, dare to challenge me? Zeron's voice echoed across the arena, thick with disdain. I'll crush you in an instant. Jack didn't flinch. He had heard those words before, from the moment his selection was announced. The alien scorn, the disbelief that a human could even stand in the same arena as someone of Zeron's stature. But it wasn't the first time humanity had been underestimated. Jack wasn't about to let it be the last. You talk too much, Jack replied, his voice steady, betraying none of the anxiety swirling in his chest. I'll let my actions speak for me. Zeron's lips twisted into a cruel smile, his gaze turning cold. Then let's begin, human. The arena's artificial sun blazed down, casting long shadows on the cold metallic floor. A low hum filled the air as the countdown began. 10 seconds. The fight had already started, even if the first move hadn't been made. Jack's mind went into overdrive, analyzing every detail of Zeron's stance, his breathing, the faint shifts in his posture. Every movement would count. One mistake could end his life. The first 3 seconds passed in silence, too short for any significant move. Jack barely noticed. His body was alive with adrenaline, every nerve tingling as his eyes tracked Zeron's every twitch. Then it happened. Zeron lunged forward with the speed of a predator, his armor-clad fist swinging toward Jack's head. The attack was calculated, ruthless, and overwhelming. The crowd gasped in anticipation. Jack had seen it coming. Every move Zeron made was predictable, driven by arrogance. He had underestimated his opponent. Jack sidestepped, the wind from Zeron's fist brushing past his cheek. He didn't waste time celebrating the dodge. There was no room for complacency. A second punch followed, this one aimed at his ribs, a move meant to disable him before the real fight even began. But Jack was ready. He dropped to the ground in a controlled roll, narrowly avoiding the crushing blow. His muscles burned, but his focus remained sharp. He couldn't afford to tire out too soon. There was no room for error. Zeron snarled, his alien face twisting with frustration. You're faster than I thought, but you're still just a human. Jack rose quickly, feeling the weight of the moment. He needed to keep Zeron off balance, make him doubt his superiority. Jack's first rule of survival was simple. Never give an enemy a chance to get comfortable. Just because you're bigger doesn't mean you're better, Jack said, his voice cutting through the tension in the air. The crowd murmured, the silence broken only by the harsh sounds of combat. Zeron's eyes flickered with irritation. I'll teach you the true meaning of power. With a roar, he launched another attack. This time, he wasn't playing around. His fist was a blur of motion, a strike meant to crush. Jack's heart pounded as he blocked the strike with his forearm, the force of the blow nearly knocking him off balance. He staggered but didn't fall. Zeron's power was undeniable, but Jack had one thing the Star Warrior didn't: adaptability. The cadet danced away, his feet finding purchase on the smooth, metallic floor of the arena. He wasn't going to win with sheer strength. He wasn't going to win with speed alone. He needed to outsmart Zuron, outmaneuver him. Zuron advanced again, his eyes alight with the thrill of the hunt. He swung wildly, each strike a calculated effort to maim, to cripple. But Jack was quick, using the space around him to keep out of Zuron's reach. His mind worked faster than his body, analyzing the moves, planning the next. The crowd was silent now, no longer cheering, but watching in stunned disbelief. This human, this cadet, was holding his ground against one of the galaxy's most feared warriors. They had expected Jack to falter, to collapse in defeat. But he wasn't. The more he avoided Zuron's blows, the more it seemed like the alien was losing his confidence. Zuron roared again, his next attack more furious, less controlled. He swung for Jack's head, but this time Jack didn't dodge. Instead, he feinted left, drawing Zuron's fist away from its target, then lunged forward, delivering a well-placed strike to Zuron's exposed side. It was only a glancing blow, but it was enough to make Zuron stumble. Jack's breath came in quick bursts, his chest heaving with the strain. The pain in his arm from blocking the last blow was searing, but he fought through it. One thing was clear now. He wasn't just surviving. He was making a statement. "Is that all you've got, Star?" Jack taunted, trying to mask the exhaustion creeping in. "I thought you were supposed to be the best." The alien's eyes flashed with fury, but something else flickered there too, a flicker of doubt. Zuron didn't respond with words. He responded with action. With a snarl, he charged forward again, his every movement a blur of speed and precision. Jack didn't back down. He took a deep breath, tightened his grip on the moment, and prepared for the next phase of the fight. His mind was clear now. He could see the holes in Zuron's strategy. He could win this. He had to. The countdown continued in his head as the fight dragged on. Time, humanity's greatest asset, was on Jack's side. And it was just beginning. Chapter 2. Jack's chest heaved as he sidestepped another crushing blow from Zuron. The alien's speed was almost inhuman, each strike more powerful than the last. The roar of the crowd, once excited, now fell into a tense hush, as if unsure whether they should cheer for the spectacle or fear for the human standing in the arena. Jack had never faced anything like this. The force of Zuron's blows was unlike anything he had experienced in training. The air itself seemed to warp with each punch, a testament to the raw power behind the strikes. But Jack's body was built for this. He had trained for years, pushing his limits in a way few could understand. But this was different. This was a test of everything humanity stood for. Zuron was relentless, his eyes burning with contempt. "You're quick," he growled, "but quickness will not save you. You're nothing but a flea to me." Jack didn't respond, his focus narrowing to the next move. Zuron's arrogance was a weakness, and Jack would exploit it. The alien warrior lunged again, his massive fist swinging toward Jack's face. This time, Jack anticipated it. He dropped low, the blow missing by inches, and in the same fluid motion, he rolled to the side. His heart raced as he sprung back to his feet, immediately assessing Zuron's next move. The Star-S attack had been predictable. Jack had learned one thing already. Zuron's pride clouded his judgment. He overestimated his power and underestimated his opponent. Jack had seen this in the eyes of every bully he'd ever encountered. It was the same look, the same sense of superiority. But Jack wasn't intimidated. He had something Zuron didn't: adaptability. Humans weren't bound by the same rigid combat rules that other races were. They didn't rely on overwhelming force alone. They adapted, outwitted, and outlasted. Zuron growled in frustration as Jack danced out of his reach once again. "You're becoming a nuisance," he snarled. "I'll end this now." Jack's eyes narrowed. He could see the shift in Zuron's demeanor, his movements becoming more aggressive, more chaotic. The alien had finally realized that Jack wasn't just a human cadet, he was a real threat. And when an opponent started to lose control, that's when Jack saw his chance. A quick glance over his shoulder confirmed that the arena was still as cold and clinical as ever. It was a massive circular structure, with high walls and metallic platforms scattered throughout. The layout was perfect for hit-and-run tactics. If Jack could just keep dodging, keep moving, he might be able to wear Zeron down. But time was running out. He had to make a move soon. Zeron's next attack came faster, his fist aimed directly at Jack's chest. The punch was a blur, so quick that Jack only had a fraction of a second to react. He pivoted, grabbing Zeron's arm mid-swing, and using the alien's momentum against him, he twisted it sharply. Zeron grunted in pain as Jack pushed forward, throwing his shoulder into the larger warrior's side. The impact didn't do much to slow Zeron, but it forced the alien to stagger back, temporarily off balance. That was all Jack needed. Without wasting a moment, Jack took the opportunity to push deeper into the fight, his feet moving quickly as he closed the distance between them. He wasn't strong enough to overpower Zeron directly, but if he could keep him off balance, if he could keep him questioning his every move, Jack knew he stood a chance. Not bad. Human, Zeron growled, his voice low and filled with venom. But it will take more than that. Jack didn't answer. He didn't have the luxury of wasting words. His every muscle burned, but he knew that the battle was far from over. If he could keep his mind sharp, stay unpredictable, he could turn the tide. Zeron launched another barrage of strikes, each one more dangerous than the last. Jack ducked and dodged, his body moving on instinct, his mind calculating each step. But with each pass, the air grew thicker, the heat of battle more oppressive. Sweat slicked his skin, and his limbs screamed for relief. He couldn't keep this up forever. He needed to end it soon. As Zeron swung again, Jack saw an opening. It wasn't much, just the faintest moment of hesitation. Zeron's pride had once again led him to believe he could finish this fight with brute force. Jack's mind raced as he calculated his next move. This time, instead of dodging, he met Zeron's blow head-on, stepping into the punch. It landed square on his shoulder, the force nearly sending him crashing to the ground. But Jack didn't falter. Using the momentum, he grabbed Zeron's arm with both hands and, with a grunt, hurled his body into the air. Zeron's feet left the ground as Jack executed a perfect throw, flipping the alien onto his back. For a split second, everything went still. Jack landed on his feet, his chest heaving, his mind running a million calculations a second. The arena felt unnervingly silent, as though even the crowd was waiting to see what would happen next. Zeron lay on the ground for a moment, stunned. Then, with a roar, he surged to his feet, his alien eyes blazing with fury. "You think this changes anything?" he bellowed. "You're still a human, and I am a god among your kind." Jack's heart pounded in his chest. He didn't respond to the insult. There was no need to. Instead, he took a deep breath, grounding himself in the moment. The fight wasn't won yet. It wasn't over until Zeron was on the ground, unable to rise. "You're wrong," Jack said, his voice low but unwavering. "You're not a god. You're just another opponent." The words hit harder than any punch. Zeron's eyes narrowed, and for the first time, there was a flicker of uncertainty there. Jack had finally planted the seed of doubt. Zeron lunged again, his eyes filled with rage. But Jack was faster now, his movements more precise. He was in control, not just of his body, but of the fight itself. As Zeron closed in, Jack feinted left, ducked under a wild punch, and brought his knee up, driving it into the alien's stomach. Zeron gasped, stumbling back. For the first time, the elite warrior looked vulnerable. Jack didn't wait for him to recover. He moved in, faster than before, striking again and again. Each move calculated, each strike a blow to Zeron's arrogance. The battle was far from over, but Jack knew one thing for certain. He was no longer the underdog. The fight had only just begun. Chapter 3, the battle raged on, but Jack's movements were becoming more measured, more calculated. The initial rush of adrenaline had begun to fade, replaced by a calm, focused clarity. The weight of the fight still pressed on him, but his mind had sharpened. He knew now that brute force wouldn't win this. He wasn't just going to survive, he was going to outsmart Zeron. Zeron, on the other hand, was growing increasingly erratic. The alien's pride was bruised, and his frustration mounted with each failed attack. His once precise strikes had turned into wild slashes, aiming to crush Jack with sheer force rather than skill. It was clear that the Star Warrior was no longer underestimating his opponent. But the arrogance was still there, burning in his eyes. He just hadn't realized it yet. He was being outmaneuvered. "You're still alive," Zeron growled, his voice thick with annoyance. For now, Jack didn't respond. He didn't have to. His actions were speaking for him. The arena, which had been a sterile, unforgiving battleground, now felt like a stage set for a final act. The steel walls rose high above, with platforms and pillars scattered across the floor. Jack had been using them to his advantage, dodging, weaving, and keeping Zeron chasing him. The trick now was to turn the tables. He had to set the trap, but he needed one more step. Zeron lunged again, swinging with a speed that belied his size. Jack was ready, and as the punch came, he dropped low, narrowly avoiding the deadly strike. This time, he didn't retreat. Instead, he pivoted, positioning himself closer to the edge of one of the arena's raised platforms. "Is that all you've got?" Jack taunted, his voice calm but challenging. He was playing a dangerous game, but it was working. Zeron's fury was growing, and with it, the alien's mistakes. Zeron's eyes flashed with rage. His next attack came like a storm, unrelenting, all power, and no finesse. He swung both fists down in an attempt to crush Jack under the weight of his blows. But Jack wasn't there. He was already rolling forward, using the momentum of Zeron's strike against him. As the alien's fists slammed into the floor, Jack darted to the side, drawing Zeron away from the center of the arena and closer to the edge. Zeron snarled, realizing too late that he had been outwitted. He charged again, too quickly, too angrily. But Jack was ready. He had studied the terrain, and the trap was almost set. Zeron was on the edge of platform now, the raised floor giving Jack the perfect vantage point. Jack waited, breath steady, heart still pounding. He saw it. Zeron's misstep. The alien had overextended, his body too far forward, his center of gravity compromised. Jack didn't hesitate. With a fluid motion, he launched himself into the air, landing lightly behind Zeron. Before the star could react, Jack shoved him hard, his hands driving into Zeron's back, propelling the alien forward. For a brief moment, time seemed to freeze. Zeron's eyes widened in disbelief as he stumbled, his feet slipping on the slick surface beneath him. The edge of the platform was too close, and despite his massive strength, he couldn't regain his balance in time. Zeron fell. The crowd gasped in unison as the Star Warrior's form plummeted from the platform, crashing to the lower level of the arena. The force of the fall shook the ground, and for a moment, all was silent. Jack stood on the edge of the platform, breathing heavily, his heart hammering in his chest. He had done it, but the fight wasn't over yet. Zeron let out a roar of anger from the ground below, pushing himself to his feet with a growl of frustration. His body was battered, but his pride was intact, barely. His eyes locked on Jack, and for the first time, there was a flicker of doubt in the alien's gaze. Jack wasn't done. He had seen the weakness in Zeron's arrogance, and now he had to finish it. He didn't give the alien a chance to regain his composure. He jumped down from the platform, landing softly on the lower level, his feet making no noise as he approached the fallen warrior. "You're not as invincible as you think," Jack said, his voice steady, almost casual. He moved closer, his eyes never leaving Zeron. "You can't rely on your strength alone." Zeron sneered, his eyes narrowing as he regained his balance. "You're right, human, but I still have enough power to crush you." He raised his arms, ready for another assault, his anger now blinding him to all but the need to avenge his humiliation. Jack smiled, the corner of his lips twitching with the faintest hint of triumph. "Then come get me." Zeron lunged again, his fists swinging wildly. But Jack was no longer playing the same game. He had drawn Zeron into his trap. This time, Jack didn't retreat. He stepped forward, meeting the alien's charge head-on. The force of Zeron's attack came crashing down on him, but Jack was ready. He dropped low, ducking under the wild swing and planting a hard kick into Zeron's knee. The blow wasn't enough to bring the alien down, but it caused him to stagger. Jack wasn't looking for power. He was looking for precision. The next blow was faster. Jack struck with pinpoint accuracy, landing a series of rapid blows to Zeron's side, targeting the alien's exposed ribs. Zeron's face twisted with pain as each strike hit its mark. But the alien didn't go down. Instead, he pushed forward again, rage clouding his judgment. Jack dodged, using his opponent's frustration against him. He was faster now, more fluid. The fight was no longer about brute force. It was about outthinking Zeron, breaking the Star's rhythm, and taking control. Zeron swung again, but this time, Jack saw it coming. He ducked, grabbing Zeron's arm and twisting it behind the alien's back. With a sudden jerk, Jack sent Zeron stumbling forward, and in that instant, Jack swept his legs out from under him, sending the alien crashing onto his stomach. For a moment, Zeron lay still, the wind knocked out of him. The crowd fell silent, waiting for the inevitable. Jack stood over him, panting, every muscle in his body screaming in pain. But he didn't let up. He knew what was at stake. "You're not going to win," Jack muttered, barely above a whisper. "This fight is mine." Zeron grunted, pushing himself up with renewed fury. "You're a fool," he hissed, his voice low and dangerous. "You think you can defeat me?" Jack didn't answer. He didn't need to. Instead, he steadied himself for the next round. The trap had been set, and now it was time to close it. He had given Zeron just enough hope to make the final blow count. The fight was far from over, but Jack was beginning to believe that it might just be his fight to win. Chapter for the arena was electric, the air thick with tension. Jack stood on the lower level, chest heaving, sweat dripping down his face. His body screamed in pain from the relentless battle, but he pushed through. He had no choice now. He had come this far, and the end was within reach. He just had to be patient, wait for the right moment. Zeron was recovering faster than Jack had expected. The alien's anger was palpable, his body twitching with violent energy as he rose to his feet. His arrogance had taken a hit, but his pride was unyielding. The way Zeron's eyes locked onto him, the raw fury in those dark depths. Jack knew the Star Warrior was done underestimating him. "Is that all you have, human?" Zeron's voice was like gravel, each word spat with venom. "I will crush you, and then everyone will see that no human can stand against the might of the Star." Jack met his gaze with steady resolve. "You've been saying that for a while, but I'm still standing." Zeron growled, his claws twitching, and without another word, he lunged forward, faster this time, his entire body like a missile aimed directly at Jack. The alien's movements were now fueled entirely by rage, reckless and unpredictable. Jack braced himself, muscles coiling like springs, waiting for the inevitable. As Zeron's fist came crashing down, Jack ducked low, the blow whistling just above his head. His legs burned as he surged upward, shifting his weight into a hard shoulder charge. Zeron staggered, but the alien was too quick, spinning to face Jack and swiping with his other arm. This time, Jack wasn't fast enough. The impact sent Jack flying backward, his body slamming into the cold metal floor. Pain exploded through his side, and for a moment he lost focus. His head spun, dizziness clouding his vision. But there was no time to rest. Zeron was on him in an instant, his foot coming down toward Jack's chest. Jack rolled, narrowly avoiding the crushing blow. Zeron snarled, a deep growl of frustration rumbling in his throat. "You can't escape forever, human." Jack's heart raced, the burn in his limbs intensifying. He had to end this now. He couldn't keep dodging, not with Zeron's sheer size and power bearing down on him. But he had something Zeron didn't, his mind. He wasn't here to just survive. He was here to win. Jack gritted his teeth and pushed himself to his feet, stumbling slightly from the force of the impact. His body was bruised and battered, but it didn't matter now. The fight was nearly over. Zeron charged again, roaring as he threw his fist toward Jack's face. Jack sidestepped at the last moment, moving to Zeron's left. The alien's fist slammed into the ground, creating a shockwave that made the entire arena shake. Jack used the momentary distraction to close the distance, darting forward and kicking Zeron's knee out from under him. Zeron grunted in pain, but he was far from done. The Star Warrior staggered, his balance faltering. It was Jack's opening. In one fluid motion, Jack stepped forward, grabbing Zeron by the arm and twisting it behind the alien's back. Zeron roared, trying to shake him off, but Jack held on, using his smaller size to his advantage. With a swift, practiced motion, Jack jerked Zeron's arm, forcing the alien into a painful angle. Zeron struggled, but Jack's grip was firm, his determination unyielding. "You're not invincible," Jack said quietly, his voice barely a whisper as he twisted the arm further. "You're just another opponent." Zeron's face contorted in rage, but now there was something else there too. Uncertainty. His breathing was ragged, the once proud warrior now on the defensive, trying to break free from Jack's hold. The crowd was silent, every eye locked on the fight. The aliens in the stand were no longer laughing, no longer sneering. They were watching in disbelief as Jack, a mere human cadet, held his own against the most feared warrior in the galaxy. Zeron growled, his muscles tensing as he tried to break free. "You think you've won? You think a human like you could defeat me?" Jack didn't answer. He didn't need to. He was focused on one thing now, the finish. He knew the time was right. He knew Zeron's arrogance, his need to prove his dominance, would make him reckless. Jack had set the trap. All he had to do was spring it. With a sudden, decisive move, Jack released Zeron's arm and shoved him back, pushing him off balance. As Zeron stumbled, Jack moved swiftly, circling behind him. Before the alien could react, Jack dove forward, driving his knee into Zeron's back with a force that knocked the air from his lungs. Zeron gasped, his breath coming in short, desperate bursts. Jack wasn't finished. As the alien staggered, Jack grabbed Zeron's head, using his momentum to slam it into the ground. The impact reverberated through the arena, and for the first time, Zeron didn't get back up. His body lay still, crumpled beneath Jack. The crowd erupted into a deafening roar, but Jack remained silent, his chest heaving as he looked down at his fallen opponent. Zeron was alive, barely, but he wasn't moving. Jack took a step back, sweat dripping from his brow, his body shaking with the effort. The fight was over. He had won. It wasn't the crushing victory he'd imagined in his training, where every move was clean and perfect, but it was a victory, one that had taken everything he had, his strength, his wit, and his willpower. For a moment, the world around him seemed to fade. The crowd's cheers blurred into the background, the pain in his body dulled by the adrenaline that still buzzed in his veins. He had done it. Against all odds, humanity had proven it could stand toe-to-toe with the galaxy's most powerful beings. Zeron groaned, his hand twitching as he attempted to push himself up. His voice was weak, but the fury in it was still there. "This isn't over, human. The star will." Jack stepped forward, cutting him off with a cold, determined look. "It is over." Zeron's eyes widened as Jack's words sank in. For the first time in the fight, the alien warrior saw the truth in Jack's eyes. Humanity had earned its place in the galaxy, and that place wasn't beneath anyone. Jack turned his back on Zeron, walking away from the fallen warrior as the arena erupted into cheers. The crowd roared in disbelief and admiration. They had witnessed the impossible. Humanity had defied the odds and emerged victorious. The fight was over. But for Jack Harper, it was only the beginning. Chapter 5, the arena was still. The shouts and cheers from the crowd echoed in Jack's ears, but he was no longer listening. The roar of triumph was distant, muffled by the pounding in his chest. He stood there, alone in the center of the arena, his body drenched in sweat, his muscles aching, his breath ragged. Zeron lay behind him, still but breathing, his once proud form sprawled on the cold, unforgiving metal floor. The alien had been defeated, not by sheer strength, but by sheer will. Jack had given everything in that fight, his body pushed to its limits, his mind working on a level he'd never imagined. And now, standing victorious, he felt empty. The weight of what had just happened sank in. He'd won. Humanity had won. The impossible had been achieved. But it wasn't the fight itself that haunted him. It was the recognition that would follow. Jack turned slowly, his gaze sweeping the vast arena. The alien spectators who had once mocked him, who had jeered at the idea of a human even entering this contest, now watched in stunned silence. They had witnessed something incredible, something that, despite all their arrogance, they couldn't ignore. Jack Harper, a mere human cadet, had defeated the mighty Zeron Calrither. The silence in the arena was deafening, the weight of the moment too heavy for any words. The only sound was the distant hum of the Forge Station systems, an unsettling contrast to the chaos of before. Jack took a deep breath and allowed himself a moment to absorb it all. He had proved himself, but at what cost? Human, came Zeron's weak voice, startling Jack from his thoughts. This isn't over. You've defeated me, but you haven't seen the last of the Star Dominion. Jack turned slowly, meeting Zeron's gaze, his expression hardening. There was no victory in the alien's words, only defeat, raw and bitter. But there was also something else, a sliver of respect buried beneath the layers of pride. This is over, Zeron, Jack said, his voice calm but unyielding. You came to our home, you challenged us, and now you know exactly what humanity is capable of. You can't take that away. Zeron's lips curled into a twisted smile, the bitterness still lingering in his tone. I may have underestimated you, human, but don't think this changes anything. The galaxy is vast, and there are forces far beyond your comprehension. Jack nodded, his gaze unwavering. Maybe, but we've earned our place. We've earned our chance. Zeron let out a soft, strained laugh before falling silent, his eyes closing as if to block out the inevitable. The alien's body sagged against the floor, a far cry from the imposing figure he had once been. Jack didn't feel the need to say more. The fight was over. Zeron had been defeated, and the message had been sent. The silence that followed was different. It wasn't a quiet of doubt or fear, but one of understanding. The spectators, once hostile, now saw humanity in a different light. Jack had single-handedly torn through their preconceived notions, their prejudices, and for the first time, they weren't just looking at him as a specimen of a lesser species. They saw him as a warrior. Jack turned toward the stands, his gaze sweeping over the alien faces that had once been filled with disdain. Now, some looked at him with curiosity. Others, though they may not admit it, looked at him with grudging respect. The leader of the arena's alien faction, a tall being with scales like molten metal, stood up slowly. He raised his hand in acknowledgement. The entire arena followed suit, standing in a moment of silent recognition. It was rare for an alien to offer such respect to a human, and even rarer for it to be done without conditions. Jack didn't know how to respond. He hadn't expected this, but the gesture meant something. It meant they had seen the strength in humanity, even if they couldn't fully understand it. As the silence stretched on, the announcer's voice broke through the air. It was booming, echoing through the arena as it reverberated off the cold walls. Victory! Humanity has earned its place among the stars. Let it be known that Jack Harper of Earth has defeated Zeron Calrither of the Star Dominion. The words sank in slowly, a tidal wave of realization that crashed over Jack in that moment. The crowd erupted into a chorus of shouts, not a mockery, but of awe. There was no denying it now. Humanity had made its mark. Jack Harper was no longer just a cadet. He was a symbol of human strength, of resilience, of the power that came from believing against all odds. But amidst the chaos of celebration, Jack's thoughts lingered on something deeper. A part of him wasn't sure what this victory truly meant. Was it just a personal triumph? Or was it the beginning of something larger, something humanity had never truly faced before? He stepped back as the celebrations continued around him, the weight of his victory sinking in. This battle had been won, but there was a larger war ahead, one not fought in an arena, but in the courtrooms, in the chambers of power, where the fate of humanity would truly be decided. Jack found himself surrounded by his fellow cadets, their faces a mixture of shock, pride, and disbelief. They had watched him fight, seen the impossible happen, and now they stood beside him. One of them, a fellow cadet named Rhea, clapped him on the back, her face breaking into a wide grin. "You did it," she said, her voice filled with amazement. You actually did it. Jack smiled, though the exhaustion was apparent in his eyes. We did it, he corrected her. Humanity did it. We're not just pawns in someone else's game anymore. We have a voice. As the crowds continued to cheer, Jack's gaze returned to Zeron, who was being escorted off the arena floor by his own people. His face was a mask of seething anger, but there was something in his eyes, a flicker of understanding. Humanity had proven itself. Jack Harper had shown the galaxy that they could no longer be dismissed, no longer be overlooked. Earth had earned its place among the stars. But now, Jack knew the real challenge would come. Not in the arena, but in the corridors of power, where the true battle for humanity's future would unfold. He turned back toward the stands, where the leaders of the galaxy's most powerful factions were now watching. The next chapter had begun, and Jack was ready for it.